Hey, good morning. This is Jim Moore, and you are watching Justice for America. It's Wednesday, August 21st, 2024, and I'm so glad to have you with me here today. We're going to be talking about three things and giving you some links to go look at to do your homework. I hope you do. We're going to talk about this episode 100, by the way, of this. We have another station, Words of Encouragement. It's up in the 700s. This one is only about 100 so far. We're going to talk about the Patriot. We're going to talk about moral chaos at the DNC that's happening right now. And we're going to talk about the Stars and Stripes Forever, Our Country. This program is about social issues, specifically, well, in two ways. Number one, there's a Christ ambassadors, God bless you, how they impact our country and then how it impacts the world. So unapologetically, we're looking at social issues from a biblical perspective. I hope you have a heart to want to know, to the best of my ability, what God says. Now, there's a lot of people today, the political sphere and the spiritual sphere has kind of overlapped each other. And so you got a lot of people out there. Hey, Tom, God bless you. A lot of political pundits out there who either are genuine Christians or believe themselves to be a Christian, and they're constantly trying to interpret what's going on by the Bible. And I'm just going to say a lot of them don't have a deep Bible knowledge. And I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying the Bible really does have very specific things to say about what we're going through. Okay, and this is not a Bible study. This is an informational program. And I really do depend on you to follow through and look up at the links. As I've said many, many times, you're only going to get about 10% of the value of this program if you don't look those up. So I encourage you to do it. I'd love to hear from you if and when you do that. What I tell people to do, as soon as the program's over, just go and look them up. Won't take any more, probably in a half hour or so. Don't have to watch the really long ones all the way. Usually you get your information in the first 5-10 minutes. And yeah, okay. So the Patriot, moral chaos at the DNC, and Stars and Stripes Forever. Let's jump right into it. Okay, and again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Okay? We all get tired of saying this. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you do get notified. If the algorithms don't prevent you from getting notified, which they do, and hit this subscription bell. That's the big thing too. All right, so let's start with the Patriot. I'm going to show a clip. Again, you will not be able to see it right now because this is live, but if you go back to the link that I'll post a little later on and watch the first few minutes of the YouTube, which will have all that introduction cut out, you'll be able to see the link. Or you can just go straight to the, instead of the clip, just go straight to the link. All right, so how many of you remember, I'm not going to take a long time setting this up, how many of you remember the movie The Patriot? So I've watched that movie a number of times. There are some movies that just have something on them. And that movie, I typically, hey Linda, do not watch R-rated movies. It is an R-rated movie for violence and gore. There's not a lot of language or sexuality in it. But I don't know, there's just some movies that I actually feel they're a message to the country. And this was one of them, so I've watched it quite a few times. Check was, okay, yeah, thank you. I'll go ahead again. Comment, talk to each other, read each other's comments. Christ Ambassador is saying something important right there. All right, so in the movie, there comes a scene. Now, it's about the Revolutionary War. And really, it's about the main character. Okay, some of you know who the main character is. You can write it in. The main character does not want to be involved in war because he's been involved in war in the past. And he's hesitant about being involved in the war until it comes to his house. This is the nature of humanity. Please understand, this is how we often work. Until it affects me personally, I don't want to get involved because I don't want my comfort level touched. It's not my bag. It's not my thing. It's not my, that's not my cup of tea, whatever. So, and now the reason that Mel Gibson is the main character, I forget the name of the guy who was Benjamin somebody, okay? He didn't want to get involved because he had been involved in war before, and that's one reason. But most of us are hesitant because it hasn't happened to us yet. If it did, if some of the tyrannical things that are going on in the country right now, and they are tyrannical, okay? And they're obvious now. If they were happening in your backyard and banging on your front door and, God forbid, taking the life of someone you knew, you would get involved. I promise you, you would. So where is that gap? Why do we do that? Why can't we bridge that gap of our own comfort zone and do the right thing? All right. So in the program, he doesn't want to get involved. It comes home to him. He loses a son. He loses his house. The terror comes to him. So he decides to get involved. Now, another character in the story, and this is a clip I'm going to show you, is a man who is literally, the person in the movie is a true historical figure. Now, this historical figure's name was Peter Muhlenberg. He was a patriot preacher. He was a preacher of the gospel, a true preacher. He was a Lutheran pastor. His dad was a Lutheran pastor. And the way, and again, I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you. This is taken from the program Give Him 15, which many of you know, Dutch Sheets. So it's not a clip from the movie, but maybe we'll get that, maybe we won't, but you can watch it. Basically, this man, Peter Muhlenberg, is standing behind the pulpit, and he's got his clerical robe on, and he quotes a scripture out of Ecclesiastes that for everything there's a time and a season. Hi, Heather. And he says, this is what God says. There's a time for war and a time for peace. And he says, this is a time to fight. He says, there's a time to preach. This is what he said. And then there's a time to fight. He said, now is the time to fight. And he pulls off his robe to reveal the uniform of the Revolutionary Soldier. And about 300 men follow him. I want you to watch the video. Right now, we're going to go to it. Again, those of you on live will not be able to see it. We'll just wait for a few seconds, and then we'll come back. So here we go to the clip about the patriot preacher, Peter Muhlenberg. Let's go.
In the basement of the U.S. Capitol, there's a statue of a man named Peter Muhlenberg. Most are not aware of who he was. Peter's father, Henry Muhlenberg, was responsible for the Lutheran Church being established in the United States, and Peter was a Lutheran pastor as well. The reason Peter's statue is in the Capitol is because of his famous action on January 21, 1776. After he gave his sermon based on Ecclesiastes 3:1, for everything there's a season and a time for every matter under heaven, he closed his message with the words, quote, in the language of the Holy Writ, there's a time for all things. There's a time to preach and a time to fight. And now is the time to fight. At that point, Pastor Peter Muhlenberg threw off his clerical robes to reveal the uniform of an officer in the Continental Army. Drums began to roll, men kissed their wives, and then walked down the aisle to enlist. Muhlenberg walked out that day, and 300 men connected with him, going to fight for the American Revolution. There was a pastor who drew a line and stood up. Peter lived in Woodstock, Virginia, while his brother, Frederick Muhlenberg, also a minister, was in New York. Frederick responded like a lot of pastors do today. He was like, oh, Peter, you're kind of overreacting. We need to preach and stay in the church. We're not supposed to cross the line. We're not supposed to be in politics. We're supposed to be preachers. And Frederick continued that way until the British burned down his church. When they did that, suddenly Frederick decided he was going to join the fight.
Okay, so if you watch that on YouTube, it's a fascinating story, and it's a true story. And it illustrates the point that I'm trying to make to you. We tend not to get involved. So Peter got involved. Pastor Peter Muhlenberg got involved, and a whole bunch of people with him. But I think it was his brother or cousin or somebody said, hey, we're not, he voiced the thing that most Christians have believed, not always, but for many, many years. And the God is changing that. He's saying, listen, if it matters to me, it should matter to you, okay? Everybody's level of involvement's different. But the other guy, I forget who it was, who said, hey, Peter, we're not supposed to do this, blah, 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 suddenly changed his mind when it touched him. Why is this important? Because our country is on a moral downhill slide. It's not a joke. It's not negativity. Okay, don't hide behind that. Okay, it's not, well, Pastor Jim or my pastor, your pastor is negative, or God forbid, don't hide behind the Bible. Some people say, well, Jesus never got involved in these things. Well, listen, there's a lot of things Jesus didn't get involved with. Jesus wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a police officer. He wasn't a literal high priest, although he's our high priest. He wasn't a parent, for heaven's sake. There are many things that Jesus didn't do. He wasn't a politician, not because he was necessarily against being involved in those things, all right? But because he had a very thin sliver of a ministry that he was called to do. He says, I've come to seek and to save that which is lost. He came to live a perfect life, voluntarily laid down his life, shed his blood so that our sins could be washed away. But he is for a lot of things that he didn't actually get involved with. And so people will try to hide behind that and say, well, Jesus didn't do that. Well, if that's your standard for everything, Jesus never got married. He never had kids, okay? There's a lot of things he didn't do. He didn't own a business. He didn't, so you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. The real question is God, and even that, the devil, involved in that thing? And I promise you, the enemy is involved in every sphere of society. Spiritual warfare is going on in every level of society. Now, are you called to engage in every one of those? No, you're not. You're absolutely not. You'll have to work out what it is you're called to engage. But don't bring God into the mix and say he doesn't care about that, because that is 100% unbiblical. Okay, so I believe there's coming a time here very soon where a lot of people are going to start saying, no, a line in the sand, like Pastor Dutch Sheets was saying, a line in the sand. Okay, how far will you and I let it go before we stand up? I'm not calling for revolution in the natural, but I do believe that God could turn the tide on this. Now, I had somebody recently, and I'm going to go on to the next thing. I had somebody recently talk about the prophets, and we need to believe the prophets. Okay, I'm going to give you just real quick about that, because some of you are watching this, you're not believers, some of you are. I'm going to address the believers for a minute. I do believe in I believe that God has always had prophets. He's always had pastors, teachers, always. I believe that 1,000,000%. There's no such thing, but 1,000,000%. Okay? But the reason God sent the prophets was not so that we could just go, okay, thus saith the Lord, I don't have to do anything. That was never God's intent. Listen to me close and I'll move on. When God prophesied through a human being something bad that was going to happen, it was so that that bad thing wouldn't happen. 99% of the time, God was saying, hey, heads up, I don't want this to happen. That's why I'm showing you in advance. If you'll partner with me in holy living and prayer, I will turn this thing around, okay? Okay, that's when he prophesies something bad or negative or whatever, a warning. When he prophesied something good was going to happen, most of the time, not every time, okay, most of the time he was saying, here, I want this good thing to happen, but if you don't get involved, are you listening? If you don't get involved, if you don't do your part, if you don't pray, if you don't live holy, if you don't declare what I'm saying to other people, if you don't even believe it, it's not going to happen. Now, I know some people will challenge that because in their mind, they think if God says something good is going to happen, like for our country. Lots of you guys know I've talked about Chris Reed's prophecy, the rebirthing America. I 100% believe that. But I also know that that is not a guarantee. See, this is where we get messed up with the prophetic. They are not guarantees. Whether it's a warning for something bad or a heads up for something good, it's always about our agreeing with the Lord so that it will not happen on the bad or will happen on the good. What we do is we hear the prophetic word that says, oh, this good thing is going to happen, God's going to save America and so on. And we go, hallelujah. let's go back to watching Netflix. That is not his intent. How many times did God promise something in the Bible that didn't happen because people refused to get involved, to live holy, righteous lives, to turn to the Lord? 2 Chronicles 7:14. If, what do you think he said if for? If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, then I will do all this. He didn't give that promise through the prophets like he is today so we can sit back and do nothing. All right, I'm trying to bring clarity to that so that we will not fall into the trap of either doom, where, well, there's nothing we can do about it, or passivity, well, there's nothing I need to do about it. You get what I'm saying? All right, somebody talk to me. I know I'm preaching so good, you can't think of anything to say. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. All right, let's move on. So that was number one, the Patriot. And again, you didn't see the clip. If you're watching live, you'll go to YouTube, or you can just go to the link. So, and I need to say real quick too, because a lot of people are saying, hey, the link, a lot of links aren't happening. Listen, I don't know what to tell you about that. I put the link on there. I double check it. I'm able to see it. If you can't watch it, then search it out. Okay, do your homework. Be diligent. We've gotten so used to just sitting back and letting people, I heard one pastor say it's like the shepherd throwing food into the sheep pen. They never go out and get any themselves. Go out and get it yourself. Good morning, Tanya. Do your part. Do your due diligence, all right? Okay, so that was the Patriot. Let's go to number two, moral chaos of the DNC. All right. So many of you know we're in the middle of the DNC, the Democratic National Convention right now. What a contrast. What a contrast. I was riveted. Now, somebody could say, Jim, it's just because that's your political side, blah, whatever. The things of the Spirit are foolishness to those who are carnal because they don't have the Spirit of the Lord. That's all I'm going to say, okay? I saw God, and go ahead and quote me. I know somebody will. I saw God at the Republican National Convention. Is God a Republican? No. Is God a Democrat? No. Independent? No. Tea Party? No. No. Okay? It's like when Joshua came up right before the Battle of Jericho and he saw the Lord and he said, whose side are you on? Ours are our enemies. And he said, no. In other words, neither. Thanks, guys. Good morning. Talk to each other. Come on, let's get those algorithms going. Okay? He said, listen, are you ready for this? I'm on everybody's side. I'm on the wicked side because I'm trying to save them. Come on. We forget this stuff. I'm on the righteous side because I'm trying to get them to partner with me to help save the wicked. Okay, you get what I'm saying? He is for everyone, although he can be against what some people are doing. You got to make that distinction. So, I saw I was riveted I have never in my life watched, confession time, never in my life have I watched either a Republican or a Democratic National Convention. I've had no interest. I turn it on and it's just like, wah. Nothing. This was different. I'm telling you, I felt the Lord. I'm old enough in Jesus to know when I'm feeling the Lord. And I felt God watching the arms, not on everything. There were some showboats and all that. Okay. The exact opposite has happened. I've watched, and I want to be a transparent and truthful, okay? I haven't watched very much of the DNC. Very, everybody said very little. I can't. I just can't. I watch it and it's just like, I know this is going to sound terrible. My wife's probably going to kill me for saying this, but it sounds like verbal vomit to me. It's just like, ugh. It's so awful. Now, I'm going to say some very controversial things right now before I go down through these links. But I want you to hear my heart, and I'm not going to soft pedal it. I'm not going to soft soap it. I'm not going to compromise. I'm not going to try to make it so palatable for everybody so I don't offend anyone's sensibilities. All right? So you can shout me on and say, come on, Jim, preach. But this is what I'm going to say. What we're facing in the world right now is not primarily, everybody hear the word primarily. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. What we're seeing happen in the world right now is not primarily political. It is political It's playing out in the social systems and culture. It's playing out in the schools. It's playing out in media. It's playing out in Hollywood. It's playing out in it's playing out in everything. This is what gets me when people say, "Oh, I just don't have anything to blah, 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 blah." You know what? Stop. We are born into a spiritual conflict, and it is happening everywhere. Again, your involvement, that's up to you. But primarily what's happening in the world right now is the conflict that you see on all the movies and all the, it's good versus evil, light versus darkness. And I'm going to tell you what it truly is right now. Okay? And you would do yourself a big favor to go ahead and just believe this and embrace it. It is God and Satan. You want to pare it right down. Good, evil, light, darkness, this, that, whatever, all the little ways you could call it. It comes down to God and Satan. Are you listening to me? That is the battle that you were born into, and that one day you will stand before the Lord and he'll say, "This, honey, listen to me. Jim was right." Okay? I don't say that often, but Jim was right. What you're seeing play out, listen to me now, in politics is good versus evil. Now, there was a time, okay, I'm going to offend the other half right now. There was a time when these two parties, they may have strongly disagreed, but they kind of got along to a degree, okay? And I'm going to say it, and somehow I'm going to lose somebody right now. I can feel it in my spirit. There have been and continue to be, are you listening? Good and bad people on both sides of the political aisle. Now, I don't care how many people come on and say, "Oh, Jim said there's good people, blah, blah, blah." No, it's you want the truth, I'm telling you the truth. Now, some people are just ignorant and they're just not paying attention. And there's blinders on. The Bible actually says that in the last days, those who refuse to give place to righteousness, God says he will give them over to blindness. He literally says, if it's like he said about Sodom and Gomorrah, it says they did not like to retain godliness and godlikeness and God in their mind, so he gave them over to blindness. He gave them over to reprobate, so and so and so on. Okay, this is playing out right now. Now listen to me. Listen close. I'm trying to be genuine, sincere here. I need you to understand. It wasn't always this way. Now, why? Because we're moving towards the end. Oh, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the end. Well, you should, because you're living it. We are moving towards the climactic conclusion of both good and evil. Evil is growing, good is growing. It's not either or, it's both and. Don't you let a preacher tell you that it's only one or the other, because it's not. Isaiah 61, darkness is going to increase in the earth, but the light is going to increase and rise greater, so and so on. So it's all there in the Word. All you got to do is believe what it says and not some man or woman, okay? Believe what the Bible says. You're living in it right now. This is why one side of politics, and I'm going to tell you, I am talking about the Democratic Party. They have embraced an open gateway to such darkness. Now, every policy, no. And I know I just crossed a line right there, and a lot of people, I just don't believe that. Okay, listen. I am not saying every human being that's a part of the Democratic Party is evil. That's not what I'm saying. I am not even saying, listen to me, lean in, listen, that every policy of the Democratic Party is bad. Okay, you're not going to hear many people talk about the good policies of the Democratic Party because it doesn't serve their purpose of trying to win. Talking about the Republican side, okay? This is what we do, and I get it. You don't necessarily talk good about, if you're on a battlefield, you don't talk great. Well, you know what? We're over there, fighting this one country, but they've got some good qualities too. No, nobody who's a soldier says that, and yet it doesn't change the fact that it's true. And I'm committed to telling you what I understand to be the truth, and that's the most important thing. Not that we rah and all that. Okay. However, and I'm going to give you some examples right now. What happens at the DNC is the best picture, I think, of, or at least it's a really good example. It's a good prototype of what goes on in the whole structure. Okay. Some really horrible things are happening, and I'm only going to highlight a couple of them at the DNC. Okay? And they are pictures and examples of how far left and how far, listen to me, into darkness that party has gone. Okay? And you're going to see more and more people leave as hopefully, God will open their eyes to see. And it's happening nearly every day. Someone else is going, you know what? This is whack. Okay? Yes, they have friends. Yes, they're good people. Yes, they're good people that have good motives. You can have a good motive and still be doing dark things. Do you know that? Okay? All right. I would say, well, let me just start out with number one. Now, everything I just said about the Democratic Party, I believe is also true of the Republican Party in a much lesser way, or a flip-flop kind of way, if that makes sense. I believe the Republican Party has embraced more and more righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Ghost, which is kingdom. There are a lot of believers in the Republican Party. Are they perfect? No. Do they tell lies? Yes, they do sometimes. Are there some that are charlatans? Yes, absolutely. Jim, it's so confusing. I don't know what to make of it. Well, I'm just telling you, this is the way it is. I would say what has mostly taken over the Democratic Party is evil. Even if they don't know it, even if they mock everybody else, and even if they gaslight and say, oh no, you're talking about the Republican Party. No. Anybody with an eye to see, like Jesus said, he that has eyes to see, he that has ears to hear, anybody that's paying attention at all and is not just rooting for their side can see that darkness has nearly taken over the Democratic Party. Now, the opposite, I believe, is true in the Republican Party. Although there are elements of darkness in the Republican Party. Because why? Because there's people involved. You get what I'm saying? Neither one of them is perfect, okay? But I do believe one is becoming more and more dark and one is becoming more and more light, and we ought to be praying for them both. All right, link number one, under moral chaos at the DNC, that's exactly how I have it written down in the description. Number one, I did not watch President Biden's speech. I know some of you don't like me calling President. Yeah, whatever. I did not watch his speech. I watched bits and pieces of it because I just couldn't stomach it. I knew what it was going to be like anyway. What you see is an angry, bitter, vengeful man. And I'm not saying that because he's the president. I'm saying that because that is what he's doing. Okay? I wouldn't care if he was the king of Siam. I wouldn't care if he was a drunk in the street. It doesn't matter. That man, he's bitter, he's vengeful, he's angry, and that came through. Yeah, thank you. Come on, you guys. Talk it up. Let's get the algorithms going. Thank you for speaking. Angry, bitter, vengeful. Are you ready? Lying. Okay? Maybe one day I'll go to jail for this. I don't care. Lying. And I only gave one clip. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him. One of the things he said, and it's a very short, like 10-second clip, is he gets on and he says this. He says, under my administration, there are 50% fewer border crossings. Are you listening? How does a person get to the place that they can stand up in front of literally billions of people and flat out deny the truth? Well, because they've lived a life telling lies for so long. Number one, they probably believe you tell a lie enough, you start believing your own lie. And they have worked in a system that says, hey, just tell them what they need to hear. And you know what? There'll be people that believe it. It's true. Do you know how many people just rejoice? Yeah, yay! Yay! The king has spoke. The king has clothes. No, the king lied. The king has no clothes. Are you get what I'm saying? And it wouldn't matter to me who it was. I got some guys out there that I really appreciate, and you ought to too, because they're telling the truth more than a lot of Christians are. People like Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. Is it Ben? Is it Ben Shapiro? I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. That are telling the truth. But listen, if Tucker Carlson got up there and told a bald-faced lie, I'd call him out too. It's lying. Our entire culture has come to the place that it's willing to believe whatever their hero says. They don't want to check it out. Even if they watch it on TV, they'll believe, Jesus is the truth. We are coming to a kingdom that is based completely on the truth. All right? Dan Bongino, thanks, Heather. Dan's a little rough around the edge, but I like the fact that he tells the truth. All right. Watch that one. So he said, get this. Literally, it's almost, my mouth dropped open when I heard him say, oh yeah, under my administration, we have 50% less illegal border crossings. I'm just like, we have somewhere between 7 and 10 million illegal border crossings. And the guy's got the gall to stand up and say that we have 50% less than what it was before. It's stunning. And what's even more stunning than one man telling a lie is millions of people believing the lie. That's the part that blows me away. Yeah. All right. Jim's getting worked up. All right. Somebody say, preach it, Jim. Okay. Okay. Now, I started out with that, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but that's not the worst of it. I'm going to tell you right now, the horror. I cannot imagine maybe only one other thing that could be done, thanks guys, that could be done at the DNC that would eclipse the abomination, the horror, the wickedness of what I'm about to tell you. And that would be a child. Okay, there's two things, okay, to me that are the worst of the worst. Okay, if you were one, thanks guys, thanks Tanya. If you were to categorize sin, which frankly I believe even God does, okay? I know people say all sin is the same. It doesn't matter to God. That's bull. That's just, come on. Let's use our brains. If God says, hey, this sin is a stoning offense and this one is not, that means even in God's eyes, one is worse than the other. Let's not be dumb. Okay. If I had to categorize, to me, the two worst sins that there would be, it would be this: child trafficking and child murder. Okay, yep, I'm going to go there. Don't freak out. I can't handle it. Yes, you can. Okay, you can. Child trafficking, to me, I cannot think of, I'm talking about, sexual exploitation. Jesus said, and he didn't spell it out in that way like I just did, but here's what Jesus said. Jesus said this. Okay? The God of the universe said this. If you cause one of these little ones to stumble, and I think child trafficking definitely comes under that category, you cause one of these to stumble, you should have a millstone put around your neck and drown in the depths of the sea. Now that's your baby rocking, lamb petting, soft-spoken Jesus that you love says, yeah, I think if you do that, we should put a gigantic rock around your neck and drown you in the ocean. That's what he said. You see, I think sometimes, I'm not saying that's what he says about everything. I don't think God's going around just angry and mad all the time. I think he's mostly glad, okay, not mostly sad, okay? He's mostly joyful. But there are things that tick him off. Trust me, he does get angry, and that's one of them. The second one, so child trafficking, I'm just trying to say it the nice way. The second one would be the death of a child. Oh, you know what? In the Old Testament, they called that sacrifice. They called that, they would, I don't want to be gross, but they would put their baby on the altar, on the burning altar, sacrifice to Moloch. Here's something I learned the other day, and I'm getting to the link. Give me just a second. I heard Tucker Carlson teach actually on this. He didn't know he was teaching, but he did. And it is absolutely true. Every culture, now listen to me real quick. This is, you need to know this. Every culture that we have knowledge of that's ever been has degenerated, evolved, okay, to the place where they began to sacrifice their own children for their convenience, for their betterment, for their pleasure, whatever. That is a fact. And Tucker was talking about this in America. He says, back then they used to do it in a very barbaric way. He says, we sanitized it. We call it, are you ready? abortion. Listen to me. It's killing babies. Satan, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I don't care if people cannot handle that. It is killing babies. Now, I want to say real quickly, if you are guilty of that, whether you're a man, because men can be guilty too, or a woman, listen to me. With all the comfort and hope and love that I have in my heart, Jesus will forgive. There is no transgression that God will not forgive. There's only one unpardonable sin, and I don't even have time to talk about this, not that. Okay? If you have aborted your own prodigy, that's not the right word, your own child, God will forgive. He will forgive, and he'll heal you of that pain. And listen, but you have to ask him for that. All right, so which of those two things has happened? The murdering of children or the trafficking of children? Well, if the trafficking of children happens at the DNC, I haven't heard about it yet, but it could. But I will tell you this. Are you ready for this? Some of you may know this already. I don't like saying this stuff. Trust me. This brings me no pleasure, no joy. I argue with the Lord about this. I don't want to talk about it. Okay. People, oh, Jim, you just have a negative streak. No. All right. So the DNC, through Planned Parenthood, their darling organization that they fund, your taxpayer money is still funding. Okay. Yes, you are paying money. It's another whole subject. Planned Parenthood is offering free vasectomies and abortions during the Democratic National Convention. All right. AI, algorithms, are you listening to me? Okay. The Democrats at the Democratic National Convention through Planned Parenthood are offering to whomsoever will vasectomies and abortions free of charge. Now that, to me, eugenics, thank you, Heather, that to me is the second, I'm not sure which is worse, first number one or number two, let's just say number two, the second most wicked thing that a human being could do is to kill a baby. But you know what? We've gotten so used to it. It's like, oh yeah, well, there's that issue, that political. I don't get into politics. Blah, blah, blah. Come on. How did we get here? How did we get so desensitized where we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to look at it, we don't want to think, we certainly don't want to protest it, because God forbid, now that they've weaponized the judicial system, we might wind up in jail for it. I don't have that strong conviction about it. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're openly broadcasting their willingness to slaughter babies in the womb. And there is no language that is harsh enough for this. And trust me, those who do not repent of this will stand before a holy God with tears in his eyes because he loved them so much and say, you are not a part of me because you thought that was okay. Can he save them? Yep, he can, and he will. And again, I want to say, if you've had one, I do not condemn you, okay? But I do admonish you to repent. All right, Planned Parenthood, number one, is boasting so far on day number one. They're actually, sorry about that, putting out the statistics. We aborted 10 babies on the first day. Woohoo, yay for our side. What has happened to the Democratic Party? Here's what's happened. You give place down the road. 10, 15, 20 years ago, you compromise here. It becomes your political stronghold that you're running your campaign on. It's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about whether it'll get you votes. And that's the truth. And then you do another and another and another. And over 10, 20, 30 years, you become the devil. Oh, Jim, they're not the devil. Yes. If you do the devil's work, you're the devil. Okay? You get what I'm saying? This is the real Jim Moore coming out to you. This is how I feel. I believe it's the way the Lord feels. All right. So watch that one. All of these are very short. I believe almost every one of them. That one was done by Riley Gaines. Some of you know she is the swimmer who's come out and said, can't have boys and girls sports. Duh. Okay. Number three is another one about these vasectomies. A couple of these are on Telegram. Now, I'm going to encourage you. I don't often encourage you to use a specific informational venue, but I found that Telegram is a really good one. They watch it pretty close as far as inappropriate material and all that. Oh, they're almost all of the people that you might want to look to for information. People like Tucker, people like Ben Shapiro. I don't need Riley Gaines. A bunch of these guys are on Telegram. It's kind of a nice one-stop shop. Hey, Ryan, a place for getting your information. If you don't do Telegram, now what you have to do is you download it. It's free, like everything else. They're going to want a password and blah blah blah. And I try to limit how many apps I have because I just don't like a lot of apps. But anyway, that's just the old man speaking. But if you go up to the search icon, the little round thingy bob, and you just search for political commentators or news agencies or whatever, all of these guys will come up, and you can just go, yeah, I want that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. So it's just a quick way. So this one is from them. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to go. Most of these outfits now, even if you don't have Rumble or X or whatever, will let you go see that one particular link. If not, you might have to download it. So number 3 is another one about the vasectomies and abortions, the devil's work. Not the vasectomy so much, that's a different, but you know what I'm talking about. The killing of children, the killing of babies, okay, for whatever. Yeah, anyway, I can't go down that road. So that number 2 is another one. That one's on Telegram. That one I think is Ben Shapiro. And then the last one is a video of the bus, the actual bus. It is killing on wheels, okay? Death on wheels, abortion on wheels. It shows this big bus that is there for people to come and get abortions. All right. So, and then, there's one more, and that is, there is a woman. I don't know who she is. All I know is I liked what she said. She come on and she basically said what I'm saying, that people aren't even hiding this anymore. And you know, it's really true. We've gone from having this argument about it being a clump of cells. You remember that? Oh, it's not a human. It's not a baby. It's a clump of cells. Okay, well, when is it not a clump of cells? When is it blah, 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 blah? Okay, well, does it start at conception? Does it start when the heartbeat starts? Does it stop when they start, all these arguments? Do you know that all those arguments are gone now, for the most part? The pro-abortion industry says it doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, it's a baby. Yeah, we'll confess. It's a baby. Sure. Does that make anybody weep? That people have gotten so hard that they'll even say, oh yeah, it's a human being, but I have the right to kill it anyway? My God. All right. So this woman is talking about it being demonic. Number 5. We're going to jump to number 5. I'm going to say, okay, no, I'm not going to say that. All right. There's lots I could say about that. Oh, I do want to say one more thing. Some of you know who the Babylon Bee is. It's a satirical comedy. Think of Saturday Night Live, although not gross, okay? They take issues and turn them into satire, turn them into comedy, whatever, in order to kind of drive a point home, okay? All you got to do is watch it and you'll understand. So what they dealt with and made a satirical video about, or a picture, it was just a picture, was about the DNC. And here's what they did. They showed the skyline of Chicago and the Chicago, is it the Chicago River? I don't even know what it is. The main river, I've seen it, walked across the bridge. The main river that runs down through the middle of Chicago, they painted it, as it were, red, blood red. And they're satirical again. It's not true, it's a joke, but it's not a joke, okay? Chicago paints river red to celebrate abortion. And when I first saw that picture, for a minute, I thought, that could actually be true. When I showed Linda, who was on the couch next to me, for a second, she thought it was true. Or might have thought. I don't know, she can correct me. What have we done? And do we really think God's just winking at all this? Do you really think God is not looking at this nation and going, if you don't repent, bad things are coming? Do we really think that just because the prophet stood up and said everything's going to be okay, like they all did in the Old Testament, not all of them, that that's true? Listen, the reason that God is going to redeem this country and do the good things that he's promised is because people repent. If people don't repent, he will not do those good things. Okay? All right. God will not be mocked. Thank you. Getting some good ones there, Heather. All right. Sorry if I don't recognize everybody's stuff. All right. Talk it up. Talk it up. Say something. All right. I'm almost done. Just a couple minutes here. I'm going to have to go through these last ones. I'm on my last. Well, no, not quite. So one of the things that I told my wife that I believe is true, not just trying to be right, is that I said the main body of people that are going to be protesting. You see, these people that are for wickedness and for the woke issues, we're talking about abortion, we're talking about extremism, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, we're talking about Antifa, we're talking about LGBTQ, we're talking about all these things that people are out there protesting about. All of those things are not just being done at, like, say, the RNC, for example. They're actually protesting their own people, the people that are on their side. So I told Linda, I said, among all these groups that are going to be there, and if you go look at these links, again, real short, you're going to see that they're all of these groups, okay? They're all out there screaming against their own side, okay? So who is protesting at the DNC? They did a study, a governmental study, if I'm not mistaken. They're saying approximately 100,000 protesters will be at the DNC. That's massive, by the way, okay? They're saying they have researched, and, you know, all of this stuff is out on the web and through all of these Facebook and Instagram and all these different things that gather. They have the power to gather people together for, a protest or whatever. And they're saying, the government saying, there are approximately 300 groups that are organizing these protests. 300. That's a lot. Okay. Approximately 150 of them, now we're not talking about 150 people. They're saying as many as 100 grand will eventually show up. Right now, I think so far there's been like 50,000 people at the DNC. They've had to put up these walls. The last I heard, they put up 3 separate walls. It's funny how they don't believe in walls to protect our borders, but to protect their DNC. They'll put up walls. Heck yes, we'll put up. And cops? Heck yes, we'll put up. Let's call out the Army. Call out the National Guard. Call out the Space Command. Yeah, it's all about, your deal. All right, anyway. 150 groups represents who knows how much of a reach, are by the government labeled as extremist, terrorist, communist, Marxist, or bad actors from foreign countries. That's what's in your country right now, today. Okay? This is not coming. It's not something that happened and, let's move on to the next news cycle because we have a really short memory and let's be entertained by some other piece of news. No, it's happening today, literally right now, today. You ought to be in touch with what's going on at the DNC, not so much to watch the speeches. I don't encourage you to do that, but at least to know what's going on because this is historical time right now. We're living in a time where literally every day it's like history is being made. Number 6, the DNC war zone, pretty much the same thing. You'll see what's going on as far as these gatherings. The last one I think is interesting, or the next one, the flags. This one will show you the multiple flags. It's really interesting. You've got Palestinian flags. You've got LGBTQ flags. You've got this flag, that flag, communist flag. Literally communism flags. Who thought 10 years ago we would see this? Okay. Well, some people thought, and they warned, but they were mocked. Okay. All right. I'm going to go down that road. People don't like people that warn. They don't. Okay. You're disturbing my peace. All right. So that one is about the flags. Number 8. I'll just say 8 and 9 real quickly here, and then I'm going to do go into the last one, 8, 9, 10. They're paying. Okay, you may, if you watch the news, have heard somebody talk about, like on Fox or whatever, this presidential campaign being AstroTurf. In other words, fake. Okay, They call it a grassroots movement. It's not. A lot of it is staged. A lot of it is faked. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Kamala is getting a big groundswell. The only thing I'm going to say about that right now, because that's not what this program is about, I believe that if she gets elected, things will go really bad. That's all I'm going to say. Things will go really... We will have, because she is basically Biden 2.0. Kamala is great for saying whatever somebody wants. She will be the chameleon. You know what a chameleon is? Whatever group it's with, it colors it according to that group. And that is probably the best description for her. And it's true. I'm not just mocking or being demeaning. I'm saying that's her history. And I have no reason to believe that will change. So what you're going to see, even though she says, we're going to change this, we're going to do this, saying all the right things to try to appeal to both sides, she's going to do what's in her nature to do, which is basically Biden 2.0. All right. They're hiring actors. Now, this is proof. This is proof, okay? This is not a theory. This is all over the internet. There are people have shown... See, that's one great thing about the informational age that we live in. You can't hide anymore. So that's why these guys are coming out from hiding and just saying, yeah, we're doing it, because they know they can't hide. It's really impossible to keep these things secret anymore. So we've got all the documents where they have to advertise, right? They got to send out documents to people and say, hey, we'll pay you this much an hour to come be a part of the Kamala tribe. And that's what they're doing. One of these videos shows the buses. It shows this line, and people are griping because they got thrown out of a restaurant. Well, there's like 20, 30, 40 vans, white vans, obviously governmental vans, all the same color, coming down the road full of these paid actors. Okay. So it's not just that. I'm trying to get you to see the phony picture that people are buying. And it's going to, I'm sorry to be the one to say it. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's going to get worse for a while. And then it'll get better. I want you to hold on. I want you to be strong. I want you to lean into joy. You must start praying for two things, love and joy, every day. I mean it. I mean it. If you ask God, he'll give it to you. Pray for love for God and love for people, and pray for joy. God, I need the joy of the Lord. You need to ask it every day, because it's gonna get tough. All right? Okay? Shine bright. Thanks. I keep seeing yours. All right. If you want a quick overview of the DNC, I put in there as a must-watch Steve Turley. Some of you know who he is. Super, super intelligent guy. He's really good. Last one. 5 minutes and I'm done. Stars and Stripes Forever? ? There's a phrase, Well, in Texas, they say, Texas forever, okay? In America, we say, Stars and Stripes Forever. Okay. I'm going to go through these real quick. And this goes along with what I've been saying. We are in a dangerous... Now listen to me. Those of you who believe the prophets like I do. Listen to me close. Listen close. We are in a dangerous scenario. So, well, the prophets say everything's going to be fine. So we're not really in a dangerous... No. That is false. That's a lie. Okay? God doesn't give warning because it doesn't matter. Okay? He gives warning because he is demanding our participation. Now, that's the truth. Okay? It could still go either way. I had a moment with the Lord the other day where, I've watched Kamala on a number of occasions, but I had this thing, and I don't know, maybe some of you do or don't understand this, but all of a sudden it was like suddenly the Lord came on me, and I saw her as, listen now, don't misinterpret what I'm saying, I saw her as the President of the United States. And I heard the Lord say, she could still become president. I wanted to blow up, because immediately after the assassination attempt, it was like, baby, it's in the bag. Trump is going to win, and like him or hate him or love him or whatever, he's what's best for this country right now. Booyah, it's going to go that way. Yes. And so I'm like, no way is she going to win, blah, blah. When I had that moment with the Lord, it was like she could win. She really could. And I know you don't like to hear that. Some of you will think that makes me a false prophet. No, I'm just being realistic. What will make the difference? Prayer will make the difference. Standing up and making your voice known. And I'm going to say this about voting real quick while I'm offending everybody. Your vote matters. And I know there are people, oh, it's all rigged, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, it's true. Elections do get corrupted, 100%. There's never been an election, to my knowledge, in the history of the world that didn't have someone trying to corrupt it. So to go, election denier is stupid. And it's deceptive and it's gaslighting, because anybody that's worked in any kind of electoral situation knows that people try to corrupt elections. And we'll just go, yeah, election denier. They're an election denier. Okay. Listen to why I think your votes count. Let's say that the election is 100% rigged. Foreign actors, George Soros, deep state. Let's say it is 100%. Let's say, I'm not saying, let's say it is. Let's say you're right and it's 100% rigged. Do you know who watches whether or not? Listen, there was a time we didn't get to vote. That's called slavery. One of the reasons we broke away from the UK, from Britain, is because we didn't get a vote. Because this idea of having a king where you don't get to decide who leads you, and even in the Bible, in the Old Testament, having a king was not the best way. God did not want them to have a king. They wanted a king, and God gave it to them through Samuel. You know, first it was Saul, and then it was David. He said they have no idea what they're asking for. You know what the bad thing about royalty is? And I'm not talking against the royals, although I kind of am, is this. You don't get to choose. Whoever's next in line is your leader. Good, bad, or ugly. That person is the leader. You have nothing to say about it. God gave the gift to this country of us being able to say. Now, going back to your content, your contesting, because I'm sure nobody here is, but you're contesting, yeah, but if it rigged, it doesn't matter. Listen. It matters still to God. I'm telling you right now, it matters still to God. Even if the whole thing's rigged, and I don't believe it is, it still matters to God. Do you know that in most states and in most countries, in our country overall and in most states, you know what the average number of people who vote is? Around 30 to 40%. Do you know that we've seen numerous studies that have said if every Christian, I'm just going to say in the state of Oregon, if every Christian in the state of Oregon voted for Christian ideals, now I understand just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you'd vote Republican, although it probably does now. It should anyway. That's whatever. Don't be blind. That if every Christian voted their conscience, that they would overwhelmingly win the election. Oh no, it's rigged. You know what maybe is rigged? Maybe what's rigged is the idea that you don't think your vote matters. See, I equate voting to praying. You know why most Christians don't pray? Because they don't really honestly believe it matters. From their heart, in their heart of hearts, if they really believed that every time they went to God, He was going to move on their behalf, they'd be on their knees all the time. And that, my friend, is a pastor of 40 years telling you the truth. We don't pray because we do not believe the power of prayer. Or we say we believe it. We say, I'm not criticizing because I've done it. Okay. I'm just saying it's an act of faith that sometimes we struggle with. So I equate voting to praying. I see it's the same mental paradigm. Doesn't really matter. So, you get what I'm saying? If I could get every Christian in the country to pray, to pray, but to vote, okay, we'd win, providing that the majority of them voted for what is good and what is right. You hear what I'm saying? I am out of time. I've got a whole bunch more here. There's one here from General Flynn. You should watch that. I don't know if you remember Dr. Phil talking about how the Venezuelan government basically has released a whole bunch of their worst prisoners. They, basically told their prisoners, the murderers, the rape, the bad guys, saying, hey, we'll let you go if you go to the United States. Well, this guy's coming on talking about 2 apartment complexes in Colorado, get this, that have been taken over by the Venezuelan gangs. It's not a joke. It's actually happening right now. Colorado, 2 apartment complexes are run now by Venezuelan gangs. They're charging the tenants rent, and the owner is out of the picture. And the cops will not do anything. The gov won't do anything. Okay, so look at that one. Here's one that's really good. You're going to want to watch. It's a compilation. If you don't watch this, you're going to be sad. It's a compilation of all of the political guys and all of the Hollywood guys going, Trump will never get elected. You should watch it. It's actually really funny just to watch that. As you know, we reported the other day, migrants are getting $15,000 in food stamps and $5,000 a month in financial help, while other people, our own citizens, are not getting anywhere close to that, and you're the one paying for it. One of these is the most famous speech ever spoken in the UN. The most watched speech was by the son of one of the Hamas founders. You want to watch it. There's some stuff about J6. You're going to want to see that. The tide is changing there. Very good news. Arizona has started a lawsuit against the Arizona. His name is Adrian Fontes. He's like the state security. I can't even say what he is. Anyway, 500,000, that's $500,000, to 1.3 million. They have found people on the voter rolls who are either illegal or dead. Election denier, election denier. You know, you got to laugh or you're going to cry. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. I know that was kind of a long one. So I'm going to be downloading this to YouTube and Rumble here in a minute. I really hope that you guys, do you have the receipt for the, yes. Well, actually I don't, Steve, I don't have that, but you should be able to find that. Let me see if I can find that for you. So yeah, I've seen a number of postings about that. So shouldn't be too tough to dig up. Thanks guys for all your comments. I hope I didn't lead you astray in anything. I don't claim that I'm always right, but I try really hard to be. I want you to learn to love. I want you to learn to have joy. I want you to learn to have peace. I want you to learn to make your voice heard. God didn't tell us to be quiet. He told us to speak. Speak the truth. And he said to do it in love. He didn't say think the truth or be quiet or just show the truth by being nice to people. He said speak it. And that's what I'm doing, and I hope you do it. But do it nice. Do it in a Christian way. If you don't, you're just going to have the opposite effect. Okay? You never get not to be like Jesus. Is that good English? All right. Love you guys. God bless you. This will be up on YouTube shortly. If you're just joining us, start at the beginning and watch this again. Share it. Share it with somebody. Please share it. And love you guys. God bless you, and give yourself permission to have a great day. Bye-bye.